Red light. Cool. Hello, everyone. So now I'm back with Jerry Ordway at Cave Comics. Jerry, nice to see you again. How's it going?
Nice to see you, Mike.
I figure with the CW just finishing recently their take on Crisis on Infinite Earths, a story that you were very well involved with, what were your thoughts on how they brought it to life?
I liked it. I think the thing that surprised me was that they did as much as they did, because there are special effects, and I mean the shows can't have a huge budget for that. I'm sure they have a specific thing where they maybe have a minute count. We can do this, we can do that, but they were actually more ambitious about it than I thought they could be. So I was happy. I mean, again, as a just a viewer, not necessarily anybody involved with it, it was interesting, and there were a lot of really good touches. Again, you said you hadn't seen it, so I don't want to give any spoilers, but there were some. I think they went out of their way to try to do a few things that were specifically for fans, that maybe even the people watching those shows now would go, "Who's that?" So
cool.
It was fun. Yeah.
Cool. Oscars just wrapped up, and Joaquin Phoenix won Best Actor for his portrayal as Arthur Fleck, the Joker. What were your thoughts on the Joker movie?
I really liked it. I know Mitch and I saw it, and we weren't polarized totally. I mean, he and I both liked it, and we both respected what it was. He thought it was like, okay, that was good, but I'm never going to see that again because it was so depressing. I thought it was really good, and it was an interesting take, and it's in Elseworlds. I mean, but most movies of comics are anyways. I mean, it's hard to watch something and say, well, I wish they would have done this or that. None of that really matters because you're not in control of that,
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're all Elseworlds. But Joaquin was great. I liked him. I knew he would be interesting because I've liked him forever. He's never given a bad performance.
Oh, yeah. And along kind of with Joker, now just recently Birds of Prey came out, and what were your initial thoughts of that movie?
I liked it. I mean, again, not a big spoiler, but it has an animated title sequence, which was just really cute.
Yeah.
It gave you the entire recap, whatever you need to know about Harley Quinn. It was fun. And I saw it once with Mitch. We saw it on a Thursday night preview, and then I saw it again on Tuesday with my daughter. And it's fun. I think they're just selling. I mean, honestly, I think they might have sold it wrong, or else people who are just like adamantly opposed to the fact that it's some kind of girl power purposely stayed away, but they're cheating themselves, because it's like to me it was a all out action movie.
Absolutely.
And it was fun. Had fun edited bits. I think people made comments about I thought of John Wick a lot, just because it's mindless. A lot of it is mindless, just action. The plot, none of the plots on these things aren't like the selling point.
Yeah.
You're just taking a character from one point to the next. You give them a goal. Once you got a goal, you follow through on it. That's what it did. It also had interesting settings. The end setting was very appropriate and was kind of fun. I mean, no general special effects. It wasn't like, it was kind of nice that it was contained adventure. That it wasn't like, oh, the world's going to end, and Harley Quinn has to save it. Because that's always been like a
beam in the sky.
Yeah. I mean, that's like always been. Every superhero movie doesn't need to be James Bond, where the fate of the world is at stake. I've said it probably with you even, with the Batman movies. I always felt like, what Christopher Nolan did was amazing, but they become so involved that in a way between movies, they almost could do a stripped down crime film. Solves a crime. You know what I mean? Like, he was supposed to be a detective. You don't need special effects for that. You need a nice set. You need whatever. You don't need a CG monster or whatever. So I do think that this fit that bill. That's another reason why I liked it.
Yeah. And you mentioned Batman. Have you seen the test footage they just put out?
Yeah. And it's, again, people are polarized, but it really didn't show that much. And ultimately, to me, the best movie costume was the first Michael Keaton one. It wasn't practical because he couldn't turn his head like that, you know, but it looked the most like the comic book thing because it had the muscles in the neck and all that sculpted in. So, you know, his limitations were if someone yelled at him, he had to kind of go like that. And if you know that and then you rewatch it, you go, oh yeah, because if he turned, you know, in real life that mask was rubber. If he turned, it would probably like his face would slide through, and the mask would still be looking that way. So I mean, that's always been a limitation. That was a limitation for Daredevil. Any character that's got a cowl that goes into the neck, unless you do some kind of separation. So that was the only thing that I could see in the little video. Was it looked like it had a collar of sorts. But again, that makes sense if you're a fighting guy. You know, I mean, they've already armored up Batman in the comics. It's not like he's just wearing tights.
Yeah.
So, you know, if he's fighting guys with crowbars and things like that, it makes sense that his shoulders would be padded.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't want to get your collarbone's pretty fragile. That's going to break pretty quickly. So, I mean, all that makes sense. And he's a good actor too.
Yes.
I mean, there's no, to me, like with Joaquin Phoenix, you know you're not going to get a bad performance. It's going to be interesting. It's not going to be whatever you're expecting. It's going to be something different. So, and there's not that many, I mean, there's probably a lot of actors who can do that, but they don't get the opportunity to. But I saw The Lighthouse with my son, you know Tom,
Yeah.
back in November, and that was in both Willem Dafoe and he were really good in it, and it's a hard movie to watch. That's what, like Mitch's reaction to Joker, that was my reaction. It's like, I'm glad I've seen this, but I don't think I'm going to want to revisit this for another, maybe a year or 2 years.
I'm with you. Like you said, they both got into those roles phenomenally.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, not the easiest film to take in.
No. And visually, it's very
Stunning.
Yeah. The black and white photography. That's another thing. I saw people were like complaining about already on Twitter, because that's what Twitter is, just about people complaining, which I enjoy. They were talking about some theater was retrofitting or trying to figure a way to do vertical screen resolution or screen orientation, and that's something that was in the Lighthouse.
Yeah.
You know, and in a way it was used for effect because it gave you kind of a claustrophobic
Definitely.
feel or whatever. But it was, it's like almost here's my phone, I'm taking this, you know what I mean? It had that, like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But it worked to kind of make you feel a little like, ooh, something. It was an extra added effect.
Exactly. It worked perfectly for that film, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to see Endgame shot like that.
No. And any movie that's going to have like 25 characters or even 7 characters, you need the width.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because otherwise you're not going to see them all in the same shot unless you're shooting from a helicopter half a mile away.
And then looking ahead, they're talking Flashpoint for the Flash. You know, how do you feel about the Flash, and do you think that's, you know, a good way for them to start?
I don't know. I'm one of the, you know, people who polarize everybody, because I'd love to see the Zack Snyder's, you know, version of Justice League, even if there isn't a part 2. I just think there's so much controversy about it, but I don't understand why. It's not a political thing. It's like this guy was entrusted to plan out, you know, a phase of movies that was probably like 10 or 12 films.
Yeah.
And they all hinged on what was happening in the Justice League movie, and then, you know, unfortunately or whatever, Warner Brothers was being bought by AT&T, and I think probably that more than anything was the fact that they kind of just said, okay, we're not going to do that. So how do you get out of it gracefully? You have to reshoot. I've heard like crazy, like that they reshot, you know, more than, say, like up to 80%. I've heard up to 60%. That's a lot of a movie to reshoot without the original guy. Mm-hmm. So there's clearly a movie that he did that maybe would require a couple $1 million to finish up effects or whatever. But, you know, it's too bad the DVD market and the Blu-ray market isn't stronger and more of a guaranteed money source because they would do it then.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because they would make it back, I think, easily. Especially, again, you know, I feel bad when I think about that movie. What I feel bad for is I feel bad that we didn't get a Ben Affleck Batman movie, because he was great as the character, and I think the take on the character was great, especially in Batman and Superman. And they had a script, they had all this stuff. So it's you know, seeing Flash, and they're doing Flashpoint. Now it makes sense because now they're at a point where they do need, or at least have the feeling that they might need to reboot certain things. Obviously, if you're doing a new Batman, you got to reboot. So I understand it. I just, it's a shame. I mean, I would like to have seen what would, because I think also Cyborg gets
more,
you know, kind of left out, and he was great. You know, it would have been nice to see Martian Manhunter and all these other characters, and you know, instead that's. I mean, again, if I had a criticism of Harley Quinn, my main criticism was I wanted to see it tied in
more to the.
Yeah, because Suicide Squad exists, and you know, Suicide Squad made maybe what $700-800 million bucks. A lot of people saw it, so clearly a lot of people liked it.
Yeah,
you know. Same with Batman vs Superman. You know, it's a shame to then suddenly have like, wait, what happened? Why is this guy Batman or whatever?
Yeah.
But with Harley Quinn, I feel like a scene at the end, you know, some kind of tie, because there is the Suicide Squad coming out from James Gunn with the same cast members.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have seen at least some kind of nod towards that, or even a scene of something teasing Wonder Woman. I mean, I grew up on monthly comics and that shared Marvel universe, and all my time at DC was in my efforts were to try to create a shared DC universe, which didn't exist. You know, we tried really hard with Superman, and by the time I was on Shazam, you know, Mike Carlin was in charge, and it was kind of a more cohesive, you know, tapestry.
Yeah.
I love that. That's what appealed to me about comics in the first place.
Absolutely.
You know? And it's a huge amount of the appeal of Marvel.
Yeah.
The movies. If you just had Iron Man by himself, it could be good, but it would be like seeing The Dark Knight and going, wait, there should be some response or acknowledgement of Metropolis or Superman or something. You just, you know, it's hard not to. I guess it's like that with anything, and you can't say, oh, it's just comic fans, because if you saw Sherlock Holmes, if you see a Sherlock Holmes story, you kind of want some of the Sherlock Holmes mythology in there. You'd want it, that doesn't need to be there, but maybe he mentions, was it Irene Adler, or you know what I mean? Lestrade is going to be in it, but you know, there's characters in these things that exist that you would want as a fan of these things to have at least a name check or something.
Absolutely.
So.
You mentioned the comic book fans going from the screen to the pages. You've been busy. You've had some projects going on. And you put out some special issues. You know, if you want to talk about some of what you've done.
Well, in the last year, I did my first kind of, I guess, my more concentrated Marvel work in a long time. So I got to do Roy Thomas, Captain America, Early Invaders, or the beginning of the Invaders story. That was really fun. That came out in July. It's Captain America, the Bahamas Triangle, or something like that. I forget the subtitle. And I'm working on, or I finished a Submariner story for the Kurt Busiek, Alex Ross Marvel's. It's like a tribute thing. They're doing a series of books that tie into points in Marvel history. And I got to work with Alan Brenner, who did. I know Alan's done a lot of TV stuff, but I remember mostly from some great Brave and Bold and things that in the 70s that DC. He worked at DC, did a bunch of really nice stories. And it's a cool, you know, it's set in 1946.
Awesome.
Very neat to, you know, draw these characters when they were kind of at their, I guess, their first incarnations. You know, Submariner with his scaled, you know, swimsuit or pants, which is kind of fun. But it's also got the story has actually got an emotional aspect to it. It's not just a fight thing, but it has includes excuse me, the All Winners Squad make an appearance in it, and that was fun. I love the Marvel era. It would be really fun to do something set in the 60s Marvel era or the 70s, because again, they could exist as a out of continuity thing, you know. But that's where I grew up with the stuff in 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
But the 40s stuff is fun. So I'm going after it to finish that. That comes out in March. so it's not too far away. And in May, I think it is, I'm working on with P. Craig Russell on an adaptation of Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology.
Cool.
And I'm only doing like a specific story. He's got a bunch of different people. Craig is doing the story adaptation, and unusual but really awesome is that the lettering is on the boards. So for that to happen, Craig basically, because he's drawn part of it, a chunk of it himself, so all ties together, and you can farm it out to other artists. You want to give them a sense of what, like a certain style. So he's doing like rough little cartoony breakdowns so the panels can be lettered.
Cool.
So
cool.
the lettering's on the board.
Huh.
And that's just kind of neat, you know? I mean, that's the way we used to work, and it's kind of fun to see that as you're going along, you're reading your story. You're not going, oh, I wonder if a balloon's going to go here over this guy's foot or something. But that's fun. So I'm doing a Loki story.
Oh, cool.
And it's again, just switching gears. It's a little more, I guess I'm doing a little more line work and stuff, a little more gritty. But it's Loki and the elves, or not the elves, the dwarves. They're they were the ones who made all the different artifacts for the gods.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
So, yeah. And that's as far as I am at this point. So I've got nothing after that, but I'm hoping I can do another chunk of my Proton story so I can have another sketchbook / comic for this summer. I missed out last year because of the Captain America one. Was just timing was bad.
I'm sure.
So I think I drew that up through beginning of June. So I didn't have time, and usually I was hoping to do it early in the year, and I just didn't. The other thing is they're still planning that Shazam hardcover. It got delayed, but nobody told me why. I think it was a production thing. I don't think they've solicited it yet, but I know it's ready to go to the printers, as they should be by now. I don't think they'll cancel it. I think it's more of a, I don't know if you're not joking, but we're talking about the coronavirus and the scare of going to comic shows where there's thousands of people or what have you. But most of those books, I think the hardcovers are printed in China. At least they still were, as far as I know.
Gotcha.
And I'm not sure if that impacted on it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because even without a coronavirus, there's been trade issues, on the political level with China. So that I'm guessing that has to affect some of these omnibuses and some of the hardcovers.
That makes sense.
Because I mean, they can print them in, Canada or the U.S. or whatever, but most of them, I guess for a price point or whatever, I know most of the omnibuses are all printed in China.
Gotcha.
Maybe they're ballast on the ships. Like, make them heavy enough so that that I'm excited for that to happen. I mean, that's a long time coming. I'd hoped it would have been out last year, but that didn't happen. So. But that's it.
Yeah, hopefully right around the corner.
Yeah.
And then looking ahead, do you have any, we already talked to Mitch, you'll be at Terrificon. Do you have any other shows or conventions
I still have to contact them, but I'd like to do Heroes because I have been doing it the last couple of years. I enjoyed Heroes. I enjoyed doing Baltimore. They're nicely run shows. They have a good fan base. That's what I like. I mean, you go to a show and it feels like it's fun.
Exactly.
So that's it. I mean, I'm definitely going to be at Mitch's show. But Heroes and Baltimore so far, I still need to find out. So.
Gotcha. And those are all very similar shows, where it's like you said, all kind of comic based. You go there, have fun.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different people at each show. There's a different crowd, of creators. But some of them are steady year by year. So I go to Heroes and I see a certain group of people and hang out with them after the show. And I go to Baltimore, it's a different subset. Sometimes there's overlap, but that's the fun part. It's like your reward for sitting behind a table and signing, thousands of copies of comics. Is like afterwards you can kind of socialize and catch up with people. But I'll probably try to do a new print or so as well for the summer. But my goal is to try to get another sketchbook /comic Proton available, because I do. All the while I'm working on these other things, all I can think of is, oh, this is a good idea, this is a good idea. And I just need to do it. I need to find that couple of months to do it. So hopefully I'll be able to do that in the spring.
And you've been doing like the eBay auctions too as well, right?
Yeah, once in a while I put up something, and I don't do it as regularly as I used to, but I'd like to. I mean, I'll do a sketch, or I'll do a cover sketch or something, because again, during the winter months I'm not going to shows.
Yeah.
So it becomes kind of a way for people to get something if they're, not going to any of these other shows. But yeah, I don't want to flood the market either, But I really have been just busy deadline-wise.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And that's good. I mean, I've been working pretty steadily on like deadline stuff since at least September, and that's the longest stretch. I don't think I've had a project to go from one to the next without a gap in between in a long time. So, I'm happy at that, but also, it's tiring.
I'm sure. Well, we're looking forward to all those projects you got coming out, and definitely, trying to get you some of the shows.
Great.
Definitely TriffCon I'll be at, and so it was a good time. And
Yep.
Jerry, always thank you for your time.
Nice to talk to you, Michael.
Always.